I need to be sexy to be valuable.
Look, if I haven't hit the big time by 30, I'm just going to give up.
My art will be more valuable if I make it before I turn 50.
Maybe these things aren't true, but this is really how other people feel about me, right?
Today on Honestly, Dear Listener, we're talking about art and aging.
We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset.
I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer, and this is Honestly, Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo! Is there a time in your life that you felt like looking good was pretty effortless?
I think yes and no. Weirdly, like I really want to just look good without trying. I think that's like
Yeah.
the goal, mostly because I don't want to have to do anything to just exist and look like doable. You know what I mean? Um,
I do.
but I don't. I mean, for right now, like I don't really do anything. Like today, I put on like a little powder and some
Mm-hmm.
mascara and some lip gloss. And I would like to be hotter, please. But I don't want to like do anything to be hotter. And I don't think I've ever been the hottie lady. It's like even when I tried, it was never like I was never the head turner like meow kind of gal, you know? What about you? Do you feel like there was a time that you could just do nothing?
I mean, there was a time when it was a little more effortless, although I definitely got told by one of my good friends in high school that I looked like I just rolled out of a dumpster. And I kind of didn't, I thought it was funny because I kind of didn't care. I was like, it's so stupid. I've got other things to do than get up every single day and wash my hair, blow dry my hair, flat iron my hair, put on a full face of makeup. Like, bleh. It's so
It
exhausting
is.
for me. And no shade to people that's what they do and that's what they like to do and that's what makes them feel comfortable in their day. I don't derive joy out of the daily putting together of the head, especially, you know?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that there's a time when I ever effortlessly just looked great because my grandma always said, and I actually took this as a compliment. She was like, "You can look like $1,000,000 if you want to, or you can look like poor pitiful Pearl." And I kind of like I it must be kind of hard, I think, for like Angelina Jolie to just it doesn't matter what she does. She's got just excellent bone structure and pillowy lips and like you can't one of those people that can't help but look hot. Like you don't have as much range. I think I enjoy the range that I have.
I like that.
And that is to say that I can look like poor pitiful Pearl most of the time, but if I really want to, I'm not ever going to be Angelina Jolie or any of those people, but like I can look decent. I don't even know. I hate that word. That
I
was
feel
a
like
that was
that
a
was
dumb
it.
choice of word. I can look
Pretty damn
I
good.
can look like conventionally attractive if I try really hard,
See,
you know?
I it's so interesting, outside to be outside of yourself. And like
Yes.
I can't really do it, but when you say that stuff I'm like, "Of course you look gorgeous." Like I don't see that I could look attractive, like I think you always look good. I don't know. I don't my problem is I don't ever feel like it changes like too much. I don't feel like when I do
Like you don't
something,
feel like you have
yeah,
range in terms of
I feel like I kind of
attractiveness.
always look the same. Like a little
Mm.
lipstick is nice, but now my teeth are kind of like the color of wood and I like a blonde wood, you know? Um Ju-
blonde wood.
like when you hear that George Washington had wooden teeth, this is what I think they looked like, I feel like,
Oh my gosh,
I
no
always
way.
joke that it's like, I feel like the lipstick on a pig thing, not that I'm a pig, but meaning it just kind of feels like I don't look much different when I really
Mm,
try. And so I'm like, what's the point, really? I guess. Like,
yeah.
it's not often that I'm like, oh, I look hot. Even if I
Mhm.
try, I'm like, if I try, especially at the age we are, it's like
Mhm.
my pores are just like thirsty, apparently. So, like, it's like little tiny quicksand for makeup on my face. Like, so I don't really know.
Quicksand for
It
makeup? It's like you're putting makeup on and it's going
is. Seriously.
sucking all of the foundation in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, what's the
Oh.
point? I just don't. I'm like, so I can look like I might be dead if I stay still? Like I just look my mom used to always be like, now I look embalmed. Like
Oh my
that's kinda
gosh.
how it feels when I get ready. So I'm just like a little
Mm.
mascara, a little
I
lipstick.
know what you mean by that feeling of being like, I look painted,
Mhm.
but like in not a good way. Like you were saying earlier, kind of the standard in society is like look good and like you can have a bunch of makeup on your face, but don't make it look like you have a bunch of makeup on your face. Make it look like I woke up like
Yeah.
this. But that's so those are like unattainable dreams unless you have a bunch of money and you can hire a professional makeup artist that can achieve that or whatever. Like, I just feel like that's just setting a lot of us up for disappointment all the time,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, or like if you had a mom who was like really good at makeup, so she kind of taught you the ropes. I remember being in middle school and having Veronica come up to me and be like, "You need to learn how to blend." My mom just only taught me to put blue eyeshadow on my eyelids and white on my brow bone. And
Yeah.
that's what we did. Ironically, the same colors when she dressed up as a clown. So like that's my beauty background.
I mean, kind of same. My mom was a Mary Kay
Mm,
lady for a hot minute.
yep.
And so,
All the Christians sell
everything.
Mary Kay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she was trying to bring in some extra income into the family. So there was like a lot of like mauves and like you said, like kind of like a turquoisey type of a color,
Mhm.
like kind of that 90s very obvious makeup
Mhm.
look. But yeah, I always felt behind when it came to beauty because I didn't have an older sister.
Same. Like I don't know. So for me, it's just a lot of effort to try and I've got other shit to do. Um
Yes. Yes.
this age thing, I'm like, so I just don't have a choice now though. Cause like
Yeah.
if I put makeup on, I look older. I feel.
Yeah, why? Why is that?
I don't know. But
I mean, arguably it did the same thing when we were like teenagers too. It made us look
true.
older, but we were, like, fine with it
Yeah.
at
I
that
look
point, because I
mature.
didn't wanna be mistaken for 11 anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. Being a lady is hard. And I just want to
It
be
is.
sexy just
Mhm.
existing. I don't want to have to do anything. Kind of like in my whole life, I would just want to be a great singer without practicing. And I want to be like a great cook without trying. Like, I don't want to try. I just want to be wonderful.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I kinda think, though, because, this is my black and white thinking of how I grew up, how we grew up, that my brain goes to either care a lot about how you look or care not at all.
Hmm.
And there's, like, kind of no in between, and the older I get and the more I feel like I'm receiving these messages from society that are like, "Oh, you're 40 now." Like, it's just a a slide into irrelevance.
Hmm.
You're at the beginning, though, so, like, enjoy it. Enjoy what you have
Mm.
left. I feel like I want to be like, I don't care. Like kind of what I look like is arguably the hopefully the least interesting thing about me,
Mhm. True. But we are so
you
pumped
know?
full of like that information that your how sexually attractive you are like
Mhm.
is is your value as a
Yeah,
woman. Because
for
like
sure.
biologically speaking, I get that like if you're not looking like your childbearing age anymore, a lot of people's brains just turn off because they're like, I can't impregnate you, so I'm not really thinking about you.
Yeah.
So I get it biologically, but we really are just in general pumped full of the that idea, and our parents' generation even more so. Like I think,
Yeah.
and my mom was in entertainment for a long time, and so I think it was even more a thing
Mhm.
growing up.
Well, this has happened several times where I will go to a bar with friends and there we are approached by a group of men
Hmm.
and we're talking. I'm married and I have my wedding ring on and you know we're talking and I might start talking or asking questions to one of them. And we're talking and we're like even maybe getting into like philosophical issues or like what it's like creating and what do you do and what do I do and I'm asking questions and then somewhere along the way the fact that I have a partner comes up and literally like one guy even said this just out loud. He goes, "Whoa, you're with someone?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, I'm going to stop you right there. I need to get laid tonight. And this, me talking to you, is a waste of my time if that's my goal. And I just, I stared at him and I was like, and on one hand, I thought, well, thank you for being honest.
Hmm.
Like, I appreciate that. I appreciate you not like, being like, oh, she's off the table. I need to spend the next 5 minutes kind of getting out of this
Hmm.
conversation. No, he just full on was like, not interested anymore. Goodbye. But on the other hand, I was like, so you were only in this conversation because I am a receptacle for your potential romantic coupling do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I felt it felt gross because I didn't feel like a person or I wasn't being valued as a person. I felt like an
Mm.
object. And I know it's like, well, of course, Carrie, you went to the bar and you talked to a dude who was probably drinking and you were drinking too. Like, what do you expect? But also, that doesn't feel good.
Hmm. See, I, on the other hand, am like, oh, you were interested. Thank you very much. I'm collecting that. Um, like
Okay, so that's where your
I'm
brain
collecting
goes.
attention. So I will.
Ah,
I've gone to bars and had someone like talk with me and like dance with me or whatever, and then I'll be like, I'm not gonna have sex with you. I'm just gonna. So I'll buy you a beer. Like, I've literally done that many times and just been like, "I know I took, like, a half an hour of your time where you could have been scouting somebody else, but, uh, here, I'll buy you a drink. Have a good night. Good luck."
why are you buying them
I
a
just think it's
drink?
fun
What?
to be like, "I took up your time, and I know that you wanted to do me. That makes me feel good, but I do know that I kinda deterred you from your plan, so have a good night." Um
Wow.
I think it's
Okay.
very fun to just be like they don't know what to do because it's like,
Uh-huh.
"Wait, what?" Like, "Oh, yeah, here you go. See ya."
Yeah.
Like, to me, I if it's safe, I almost like the objectification. Whereas,
Oh,
like, right now,
interesting.
I feel like I'm the old weird bag at the bar that they're like, "Please don't look at me." You know? Like, so
Uh-huh.
I would welcome a, like, "Eh?" And then I'm like, "Nah." And they're like, "Oh." Instead of, "No?" And I'm like, "Eh?" And they're like, "Ew." I would rather.
Interesting. Okay.
I like to be objectified, really. As long as it's safe
Okay.
and it's a stranger,
That's
like, you know.
uh-huh. That's really interesting.
Because to me, I'm like, I'm hot, yay,
Okay.
or just willing. I guess might be the only thing they're looking for, but I'm not
Right.
willing. Joke's on
It's
you.
but is it that much of a compliment when I feel like a lot of dudes will, and maybe this is
Don't ruin
unfair.
this for me. Okay, go ahead.
Dear listener, understand that Emily and I, for context, both grew up in a very high control, religious, pro
Abstinence.
purity culture, pro abstinence. So when I'm talking about all of this, just understand that there absolutely might be vestiges of that thinking that are still happening
Mhm.
in my brain, because I'm like, oh, everything, we were always, like, don't date, court. So everything has to be so much weight, so much emphasis put on it. Like, if if you're gonna like, there are no casual trysts in evangelical Christianity. Like, in fact, that's sinful.
Mhm.
So
We just both
I
went
guess,
very different ways with how we processed
yeah.
it. I went like naughty fun, and you went like, oh, still weird. And that's just how,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were saying
Interesting.
it's not a
Okay.
compliment.
Oh yeah, it doesn't feel like a compliment when I feel like if the goal really is I'm out here to have sex, I don't feel like they're very discriminating a lot of times. So I it's not a conversation about my hotness. Like, oh, you chose me because I'm hot. I feel like, oh, you're choosing me because I'm a receptacle.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
could be that's why I had a lot of weird encounters for part of my 20s. But I was like, you don't have to come over here. I mean, I'm at least
That's
past,
true.
that means I'm at least past the attractiveness point, that there is a line for everyone. If they're
What do you
like,
mean?
even if you're just looking to get laid, you're still like, there's a line of attractiveness that you don't really go below unless it's like 1 a.m. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So
So
I think so. At least I'm like, the bar is here, uh, and I'm above that.
above that
Yeah,
bar.
at the bar. This
But
is
like
making it
how
sadder for me, and now I'm really questioning.
so
No,
I
it's
don't mean
fine.
to make you
It's
sad.
fine. I'm
But like
married.
who am I to say like I can't gauge that person's bar. That person's attractiveness bar could be so low that like it's really not a compliment.
Hmm.
I can't I'm not maybe what we do, well,
Next time we're out on the
I'm not
prowl,
doing this. We say, "Okay, give me a number value." If 10 is Angelina
I love that
Jolie or whatever,
she's your gauge.
I
I
don't
like it. Keep going.
I feel like she's not my gauge. I feel like she is the person that most of society would argue is of the most attractiveness. Like I feel like, yeah, there's going to be people who listen to this that are like, "Well, I don't think she's hot." But like I feel like most people do
I like that
think
she's your
that.
gauge also because of exactly kind of what we're talking about, which is age. Angelina Jolie was
Yeah.
hot like 20 years ago, and she's still your gauge of hotness, and that makes me happy. Um,
She's still hot.
I know. I'm
I
just
think.
saying. I like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Totally. That's your
okay, so
point.
put me. Yes, that's my point. Uh, okay, put me on a 10, and is Angelina Jolie. At least give me a rating if you're gonna objectify
Right.
me. Is that what you're saying? I feel like
Yeah.
that
Like
makes it even more objectifying.
well, I mean, I don't
Like,
really
you're
want to
only a
know,
4,
but
but I'd bone you.
like No, but, like, if oh my gosh, this is devolving. Oh, how am I gonna back up out of this one? I guess my point in saying all of this is that I kind of do feel like now that we're 40 and kind of the world is like, "Oh, yeah, it's only gonna get worse for you physically and attractiveness-wise from here." I kind of am, like, getting less and less interested in playing that game,
Mhm.
and I'm getting more and more interested in, like, okay, cool. Now that, like, hotness and youngness and all these things that we took for granted in our 20s and 30s and whatever are becoming less of a thing. Like, we got those kinda out of the way
Mm.
maybe. Now we can focus on the things that are truly interesting,
Mhm.
like making crap and having good, honest conversations and, focusing on connecting with people and their art. I guess it's becoming less and less interesting to me,
Mhm.
the attractiveness
Mhm.
conversation.
See, I love that, and I hope I get there. I think that there is a large percentage of, uh, our age group that we've really had a lot of pressure put on us for a long time in, like, entertainment world
Mhm.
to be like, if you're not hot anymore, no one wants you. That's how it
Mhm.
feels as, like, a singer or an actor. The age right now is very much like there's no when I was looking at, like, Broadway auditions, it's, like, 39 and under, 40 and under, and then it's, like, 60.
Oh, so we're like in the uncastable zone
Because
of
if there's
age.
so, yeah, when you're 40, you're supposed to be, like, the mother of young children. And
Mhm.
that role is not interesting because that's the only thing about that character. So, like,
Oh,
they typically
no.
just put, like, an ensemble member in a wig, so they're still 25, to be like, "I'm the mom of these young boys." And then
And the boys are the point of the show, like, the boys are the
yeah.
protagonists, and you're kind of yeah, like an ensemble character, like you
Mhm.
said.
But there
Yeah.
are a few roles that are just moms that are the only like, Christmas Story has a mom that's probably supposed to be
Mhm.
40. There are a couple roles, but overall, it's like you are what were you saying before? It's like you're the ingenue, like the young hot.
Oh, yeah. So, in terms of, like, archetypes, so you kind of fit into 1 of 3 categories. It's, like, the virgin, which is the hot young thing, the mother, which is, the 40s,
With no personality.
40-year-old, and then the crone. Right, with no personality, and oftentimes you don't even especially when you talk about shows or things like that, oftentimes you won't even have a name. Like my friend
Mhm,
Rachel hi, Rachel, she was in a show and she didn't have a name, she was just mother,
mhm.
'cause that was the
That's enough.
function, of
Yep.
that role. Yeah, that's
Mhm,
enough. Or you're the crone who is kind of this old, like, mannish, hunched over, crusty thing that's all, you know? It's
or the
honestly,
grandmother that's,
like
like, cooking or something.
yeah, the kindly
Mhm,
grandmother
mhm.
that's, like, supporting the protagonist and offering tidbits of wisdom of, like, her long life. And I think that there's more than that. And also, what's so bad about the crone?
I think that's rad. The thing is though, when you're this age and you're so that's from like a theater standpoint or actor
Mhm.
standpoint. And I think it's less like that in film, but still kind of like though I really am loving Girls 5 Eva because that is breaking down some of
Oh, I've
that.
not seen
Oh,
that.
it's women our age that used to be in a pop group and it's like Sarah Bareilles and
Cool.
Busy Phillips and yeah. Anyway, that's some cool stuff. But musically, you're also in a weird
Mhm.
place because you're not going to be a pop singer. You're
Mhm.
not going to be a rock singer unless you've already done something notable. You're
When you were
Yeah,
younger.
like and then we just
Mhm.
accept that you're aging barely because you're supposed to get plastic surgery, but only plastic surgery that
Right.
no one knows you had, or else you're an insecure person who got plastic surgery. And then, like, what are you, singer-songwriter, I guess?
Mhm.
And then you're like the kinda, like, mom that's a singer-songwriter. That's cool. That's nice. I guess she's cool.
Mhm.
She always brings snacks. Like, what are we doing? You
Oh,
know what I mean?
yeah.
The messaging has been across the board just, like, impossible when you get older. Like, it feels
Mhm.
like there's nowhere for you to be. But
Right.
the beauty about us right now is, like, what you're saying, we can care less about those things and just do it anyway and just show up and be and rock
Mhm.
who we are, and some
Yeah.
of that insecurity melts away. But I'll tell you, I fight it really, really hard. And I think it's
Me
so
too,
and
dude.
I put shame on myself too about it because I've never been the hot young thing has never been my thing. So why
Mm.
does it feel like it matters so much? And I think part of it is just because society does not give us much uh,
Mhm.
of our age. It doesn't, it's like you can be heavy now. Thank you. You can be alternative. You can be whatever, but you can't be old
Yep.
because
Yeah.
what do you have like to offer
Mhm.
us? It's like, well,
Yeah.
a lot, really. Anyway, it sounds really depressing, doesn't it?
But I think, like we talk about so much, is like reality really exists in here. I'm pointing to my head for all those people that are listening and not watching. It's all in what we make of it and we say to ourselves. Like, yeah, there are things that society is going to say to us or ways that they're going to treat us that remind us, like, oh yeah, you are ascribing to societal mores of like now I'm slipping into irrelevance. But I am not going to let that messaging determine whether I make things or not. I'm not going to just accept like, oh, now I'm not interesting. Nobody wants to hear from me, even though that is what my brain tells me a lot
Mhm.
because we're products of the society that we live in. But I want to fight against that programming and I want to give myself other programming that is, you know what? I know that these are the messages that you hear, but we're still going to do the thing
Mhm.
because it's important. And now, like, just with every year that goes by, I want to constantly tell myself, I release you to be more free
Mm.
into the things that you're making. Like, we're going to shed all of those things one by one to hopefully by the time I die, I will just be a lady out in a field dancing naked with paint all over my body.
Life goals.
I
I love
hope,
it.
like yeah. But yeah, no, just because I say these things of what I want things to be doesn't mean that I feel them all the
Mm.
time. Like I'm totally that person on Instagram when I was on doing Instagram actively on the daily that was like watching before and afters of um plastic surgery. I mean, all of that stuff is really
Mm.
interesting to
Mhm.
me because and this isn't shade on plastic surgery either. If people want to get plastic surgery, that is
Or
totally up to
cosmetic
them. And that is their
surgery, I
right.
suppose we
I'm
No,
sorry.
I called it that
Cosmetic
too.
surgery.
It's cosmetic. Sorry.
Yeah.
My B.
If they want to, I think we should be able to have that choice. But I don't want to for myself feel pressure to have that done to feel like I am to up my
Mm.
value or to up my art's value.
Mhm.
I I want to reject that. But that programming does live in my
Mm.
body. It does.
There are so many people that are our age making things
Mhm.
and fighting this battle in their brains to make it anyway, to feel like they have that are compelled by
Mhm.
the art that lives in them to continue making it even in the face of not being famous yet at a certain age. There are so many people, women our age, making things. And I am
Yeah.
excited to think about the possibility of featuring them more in Honestly Dear Listener,
Absolutely.
because we need to know
Yes.
that the us's of the world are out here doing this work.
Mhm. Yep. Absolutely. So, dear listener, if that's something that you're down for, reach out, let us know. That's our intention, is to really highlight especially women of a certain age who are feeling societal pressures, but who are also just going to go ahead and make the thing anyway.
Mhm. Sh- Show
Um
us show us your friends that you love that are making things, and if you're one of those friends,
yeah.
show yourself.
And let us know. Please let us know, like, hey, I'm an artist that I'm working on dismantling a lot of those beliefs in myself, or I know an artist that is also doing that work. Like, we would love to talk to them.
Mhm.
A couple of months ago, I went to this thing. It was kind of a spiritual type of I thought it was going to be Christian, and I was like, "Ugh," and then it ended up being a spiritual kind of get together with women. And it was like a mashup of a writer and a musician got together, and the writer wrote poems and the musician wrote music, and they kind of showcased it together
Mm.
with this theme of going through the different rights in a woman's life, starting from the beginning and going to the end. And they also had a bunch of, if you paid, to attend this thing, you got a free art print. And they corresponded to the different times in a woman's life, rites of passage in a woman's life.
Mm.
And you got to choose which one. I think that there were 7 or 8 different ones. And the one that I chose was this. I mean, all of them are beautiful. I chose the one of this woman scattering seeds in a field, and she was kind of sowing her creativity, and it just spoke to me. It was interesting. But I ended up putting that one back. I originally had that one with me. I put my hands on it, I picked it up, I put it at my table. And then I thought about it for a second, because there was one that symbolized the right of legacy, and it was this old woman, and she had this like long braid that almost looked like a tree
Mm.
trunk. And I didn't choose that one initially because it scared me.
Mm.
And then I asked myself, like, what? Okay, wait, what's that about? And I was like, well, I like the image of, a young woman in a field sowing seeds, but I'm scared of this idea of like this old lady. She's not young anymore. She's not like quote unquote
Mm.
hot anymore. And like, what does she have to offer?
Mm.
Was in my brain. And then I was like, what? So I put the seed lady back, and I picked up the old lady, the legacy rite of passage for women, and I took it home with me.
Mm.
And I stuck it on my wall with a piece of tape, and I was like, "No, this is my banner. This is the song of celebration that I want to sing over my creative space."
Mm.
I still don't fully know all the implications of that. Like, I kind of was letting my body lead.
Mhm.
I was leaning into that
Mhm.
discomfort. But I think that older lady on my wall is there to teach me things.
Mm.
I don't know what all of them are yet, but I'm interested and I'm curious.
I love that. I love that so much. I mean, if you I suppose if you knew all of what it was, then it wouldn't teach you anything, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to keep your heart open to all of the knowledge and beauty that is to come, you know. I think it's I don't know. I have a really hard time with this. It's I know the right thing to
Mhm.
say in air quotes or
Yeah.
think, I suppose, but I have a really hard time with it. I think some of that too is like, you know, looking at again, I'm not blaming my mother, but you know, a mother is the example of a woman in your life and how aging looks and
Mhm.
how to process it kind of like there we are the example to our children of that and
Mhm.
especially like moms to their daughters um and my mom didn't have an example of that because my grandmother died at 59.
Oh,
So
wow.
my mom always kind of almost she was really close to her mom and I think she kind of like romanticized getting out before you got old and ugly. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
my mom has spent the last while kind of in this state of not accepting aging well and wishing she had died young. And
Hmm.
so and that's a big, thing to talk about. So little little vulnerable there. But my mom also is extremely giving and lively and does so much and behaves like a young person in so many ways and
Oh, yeah, she's a hoot.
has so much value in helping others and being here on this planet to do that. So
Mhm.
I'm not trying to make my mom look like some kind of crazy insecure person, but this is the thing like about parenting, about being moms, about all this. Like we're just doing this the first time too, you know, and we're
Yeah.
just getting old one time. And we're the youngest we'll ever be right now. Like we're all on the same, like we're all new at this,
Yeah.
depending on how you believe, I suppose. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think it makes it harder for me to move through being in the industry the way I am, being as insecure as I am, having a mom who didn't have a mom to watch get older and thereby is kind of not very kind about getting older at all. It's like, how do I
Mhm.
do this? You know? But
Yeah.
I really like the holding that older woman as an example of like what she can teach you. Because the other thing is,
Yeah.
I find even at 40, I talk to, artists all the time and young women in the industry. And I wish I could just like give them a flash drive of what this looks like right now that they could upload to their brain so that they don't waste all their time worrying about what they look like right
Yeah.
now and then freaking out about things that are not going to be valued like of value to them. Like
Yeah.
I think I wasted a lot of time and didn't try a lot of things because of the story I told myself with how
Mm.
attractive I was or how much time I had left or how, well, now that I'm 28, there's just no point. Nobody thinks that I'm attractive anymore. I just wish I had not worried about all that, you know? So there is
Well,
still
it's
some good
all
stuff, but it's like,
yeah.
oh,
You said a really interesting word. You said story. And I think that that's so true. And that I think that's what I mean when I say it's all in here. It's all in what we tell ourselves. It's all a story. And who says what story is true and what isn't? Just because the majority of people, at least in the United States, ascribe to this idea of beauty being young and old age being
mm,
ugly. If I tell myself that age is actually like gorgeous and interesting and nuanced and wise, who's to say that I'm wrong? Because it's different from why? Is it true just because the majority of people believe it? Why is that belief, even if I'm the only one that holds it for myself, how am I wrong? And even if there is an objective right and wrong, which there's not, um, and maybe I'm believing a lie about myself, isn't it still helpful insofar that it's helping me in the world not fall into
Mm.
obscurity?
And still with having at least, God willing, at least 40 years left of your life. That's a long time to not, in air quotes, be valuable. Like
Yeah,
that's bullshit.
it
And
is.
also I do
Totally.
challenge what we're being fed. I don't know if it is actually what most people believe,
Right.
because I
Yeah.
think it's a lot more to do with capitalism and what
Mhm.
industries can make money acting like everyone believes. So I think that's a story
Totally.
too. And but it's just hard to remember because we are so
It
inundated
is.
with media telling us these things.
Yep.
And the guys at the bar. Just kidding. Um
Thanks, guy. I wanna be kind to the person that I am, and I want to I really do want to approach age like, "Oh, isn't that interesting? The things that are happening to my face." Instead of being judgmental of them, I really and I don't know how to do this yet because I do see jowls when I look in the mirror, the beginnings of them, and I'm seeing wrinkles and skin irregularities and things like that. But I really do wanna get more curious about where my face is headed. You know?
yeah.
I know that's a kind of a weird way to put it, but, like, instead of all signs of aging are just across the board, they're just bad,
Mhm.
and, like, look at where this is taking me, and I'm just breaking down. Like, yeah, there's a sense of maybe my body can't do functionally what it used to do when I was younger, but, like, I can treat it right and exercise it and keep it active, but, like, specifically my face.
Mm.
I want to look at it like, "Wow, it's doing that thing?
Mm.
Interesting. I thought it would do this, but it's doing this instead. How cool."
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, face, you're constantly surprising me where you're headed," I
I
guess.
love that.
Oh, what I was gonna say is I was listening to an episode of, We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon
Mhm.
Doyle, and she suffered with, eating disorder. They've done multiple episodes on it, and they're bringing us listeners along for the ride of not just, "Oh, I've overcome it, and, now it's smooth sailing from here, and I'm bringing you into the mess after it's happened." No, they're
Mm.
they're choosing to bring listeners in through the process in the middle
Wow.
of that mess as she's going through treatment.
Wow.
And, it's yeah, and she, in one episode, was talking about how I think a lot of people view their bodies and their faces and their physicality as their art,
Mm.
when really it really is the vehicle for your art. It's like, I'm not going to sit here and have a conversation, Emily, about how my computer is so cool and it allows me to write books, and, like, let's keep talking about my computer,
Mm.
or my pen and pencil, or your microphone,
Mhm.
for your singing. Like, that would be missing the point. No, those are tools that allow things to be made
Mm.
and for performance to happen. Like, the microphone is missing the point.
Mm.
The computer is missing the point. What's really cool and what's really interesting is the thing that gets made.
Mm.
And I don't want to keep having conversations in my head about my damn computer,
Mm.
being the metaphor for my face and my body. I want instead to be like, great, let's focus on what we're making
Mm.
instead.
And keeping all of our programs updated so that we
Yeah,
can use them as efficiently as possible.
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Um, And that really stuck out to me because I realized in that moment, oh my gosh, look at all this. And I'm not going to beat myself up for it, but like, look at all this time and energy I've wasted.
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. I'm not going to berate myself, but also moving forward from 40 on, I want to practice because I'm not there yet, and I'm stumbling along in that, but like I want to practice what it means to be art focused, not tool focused.
Mm. I I feel just I love I mean, I feel like I say this every episode, but I love our talks because
Me
it just
too.
really brings in, like, for me, your perspective on things brings excitement and curiosity so much more than my own little brain in here being like mean, you know?
Yeah.
And so
I
I
get
really
that.
appreciate it. It like pulls me into a different place. And I think that's like again coming back to like being I'm just excited. I'm excited for us to be talking to more people coming up and bringing more friends into this conversation about
Mhm.
how they make their things and what tools they've used and what trials and tribulations, I guess, they've faced
Mhm.
to be making things in the face of this force that would tell us that we're disappearing, you know?
Absolutely.
Um,
Well, and I love talking to you too. It's so encouraging, and listener, I hope that you find it encouraging too, that you're not the only one in this kind of mental marching forward into a gritty um, choice to not be silent. There are other people on this path too,
mhm.
and it feels good as a human being to know that you're not alone. And so, Emily, you're definitely my person when it comes to it's just nice to have someone that's like, "Yeah, me too." And I'm like, "Oh, good.
Mm.
Cool." Like, if all else fails, I have a creative buddy that's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that
I
either."
will not go
Like, I'm done with
quietly.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I have a buddy that is committed to practicing this way of thinking, I guess, and that encourages the hell out of me.
Good. But by the time
Thanks.
we're done, there'll be no hell left in us.
That's right. My mom would be so
I know,
happy.
right? And isn't that full circle? Um,
Yep. We did it.
listener, contact us. We want to know what you're making. And I feel like, Carrie and I've been talking about the like challenging the idea that we have to turn down our enthusiasm or turn down our expectations of being able to make things we're challenging that idea, and we want to give a megaphone to all of our friends that are creating and continuing to turn up.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
we're looking forward to doing more of that.
Yep. Until next time, dear listener and my dear Emily.
Honestly, dear listener.